Welcome back to the morning show.
Our next guest is a writer and passionate feminist working on her first book of poems and essays about the female experience in Nigeria. She has contributed articles to Huffington Post, Bella Naija, Genevieve Magazine, True Africa Magazine, amongst others. She is passionate about the rights of women and children, challenging patriarchal beliefs and fighting misogyny. Welcome, Oseyi Etomi.
Good morning, Oseyi.
Good morning.
And you're also called Ozzy.
Yes.
Okay, where's that name from?
It was just a nickname that a friend gave to me in college, and it just kind of stuck.
Yeah, my son's name is Oz, by the way. I don't know if you know that.
Awesome.
All right, well, welcome to the morning show.
Thank you for having me.
While reading, I realized you're a feminist, right?
Yes.
And now you're writing a book on essays on women, correct?
Yes,
All
I
right,
am.
and it's titled The Women Before Me. Mm-hmm. Talk to us about that.
Well, I started sometime in 2016. I did sort of a writing challenge, and I wrote for 30 days, and I decided I was going to write for 30 days about women. It kind of, took off on its own. It kind of got shared a lot everywhere, and I got a lot of women writing to me from all over the world, telling me how it had inspired them, how they had shared it in their classrooms, or they had printed it out and given it to their daughters. And so a friend encouraged me to turn it into a longer thing, which was the book. So I've been working on my book. I took a short break because I had a child.
Oh, wow, fantastic. Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you.
You look good.
Thank you. But basically, it's inspired by the female experience in Nigeria. But I think what I've realized is the female experience in Nigeria is not unique. Women are experiencing the same things everywhere, and that's why a lot of women sort of relate to the things that I talk about.
Now let's talk about the things that you're talking about, the female experience in Nigeria. In your writing challenge, with women responding to you, what did you realize, what did you learn about the women, especially in Nigeria?
So I think women in Nigeria and the concept of feminism is quite complicated. A lot of women kind of run from being identified as feminist.
Why is that? Why do you think that happens?
Well, I mean, it's a combination of many things. First of all, we've all grown up in a very misogynistic society, so there's a lot of ideas that we have internalized or we even believe that kind of you have to work on yourself to kind of move yourself out of that mindset. So I feel like a lot of women are just as misogynistic as men. A lot of women, especially older women, will kind of hold you back in the same way that men hold you back. And I think a lot of it has to also do with likability. Women are taught to kind of be likable and be nice. And, there's something that's attached to feminism that's kind of it comes across as aggressive. It comes across as, you're not very likable. It comes across, like you're, bra-burning, like angry person. And I think a lot of people don't want that responsibility, or they don't want to feel that that is sort of a label that's attached to them.
Yeah. Especially in our environment.
Especially in our environment that is very male-dominated.
And there are different kinds of feminists, right?
Exactly,
and
yes.
There's like the Beyonce kind, and then there's the Chimamanda type. And
they're the radical ones. They're the ones who are not radical. They think that women and men are equal. What category do you fall into? And have you been able to classify what category most Nigerian women fall into?
So I don't really think that there's supposed to be different categories of feminism. I think that people have different personalities.
Oh, you think it's the personality thing?
I think people will communicate in the way that suits them. Okay. So I mean, the basis of feminism is just believing in equal rights for women and children, and women and men, and just not being held back based on your gender, not being judged or, being told that there are certain things you must do and you mustn't do if you're a man or if you're a woman. And that is basically what feminism is about. So, I mean, in anything, in Christianity, you're going to have people who are radical, and then you have people who, mind their business and just go to church. You have people who are soft-spoken. You have people who are, advocates. So I think it's just that sort of thing where you have, according to how passionate you are and how verbal you are and just the kind of personality you have, it comes across in different ways with different women.
When you say it comes across in different ways, depending on the personality of the person. But the argument in some cases, for instance, the things that Chimamanda has said has generated a lot of controversy, discussion. Let me take the very most recent one, the very popular one about opening doors for women. Now, for a lot of people, they say women can't actually define what they want. What kind of relationship do you want with the man? You say you are strong, you have the ability to do this and do this and do that, but still you tend to lean on the man. Is that a function of leaning on the man or just leaning on somebody?
When you say lean on the man, what do
Like,
what do
you know how, I mean, for people in relationships, so that's the most basic one. I mean, it's a relationship. You guys help each other out, right?
Yes.
And there's this notion that, oh, the man picks up the bills. That's the traditional way a family was structured. So people tend to say, oh, women say they're feminists, they can't stand on their own. But when you look for that kind of relationship from your half, is it because it's a man or because it's a relationship and people just feed off each other?
I think in any relationship, there are ways in which both people depend on each other. There are things that men depend on women to do in relationships as well. I think financial dependence has been something
That's the most basic one I'm using,
yes,
but there are other kinds
but
as well.
financial dependence is something that has been, is sort of is structural. So there are years where women weren't allowed to work, you know, and then there are years where women weren't getting the kind of positions men were getting. And so the society is already very imbalanced, and men get paid way higher than women. Men get into management positions, they get, you know, promoted before women do. And so I think generally men just tend to have more money than women do. And men are also taught to be more ambitious than women because they also do raise men to say, you're meant to pay for everything. And they do raise women to think, you know, oh, a guy is a gentleman if he's paying. So it's all like kind of intertwined. So I don't think it's necessarily like, you know, oh, you want to be a feminist, but you want a guy to pay for you, or you don't want him to do this, or you want that. It's not even necessarily a benefit, because a lot of women end up being very disempowered when you have to rely on a man for everything, because then you're giving him basically the power to define everything for you because he has the financial power.
All right, so let's talk about money marriage. I know that there are certain tribes in the eastern part of Nigeria that practice this. For the benefit of our viewers that don't know, because I was blown away when I was reading up on it, that young girls are subject into modern-day slavery. They're having their girls go into this marriages because of money. Talk to us about that.
So BBC actually did something on this a few days ago. It's the Becheve tribe in Southeast.
Yes, that's in Obianuku in Cross River, right?
In Cross River, exactly. Right. And basically, when families have debt, when they have things to pay off, when it's sort of become a tradition to sell off your young girls to older men as payment for, you know, you borrowed money, or, you know, you need something done. There was a grandmother who said she sold off her granddaughters because they needed to pay to get the juju of the family.
Get their what? I'm sorry?
To get, like, you know, people had been dying in the family, and there was like kind of like bad karma on the family, and so maybe like a priest or something had said, okay, bring your two daughters as a sacrifice and all of that stuff. So, I mean, it's really very shocking, but it's not a unique thing. A lot of young girls are being sold into marriages, child marriages. It happens in the north, it happens in other parts of the world. And I think the most important thing here is just addressing the ignorance, addressing the lack of education, addressing the poverty that would cause you know, families to need to sell their daughters in the first place. And of course, it's also the misogyny of, you know, thinking of women having that sort of value, right? Women being like cattle that can be exchanged as for money.
Okay, now we know that the laws in Nigeria are very strict against something like this. So obviously what we see here is a problem where enforcement is a problem. People understanding these laws and then enforcement. When we see that this has been happening in the society, what are the expectations from government about dealing with something like this? Whether from the immediate government, from local to state to federal, how do you think that this problem should be handled? Because it's been existing for a very long time.
Yeah, well, the thing is that I think that the problem in Nigeria is a lack of awareness. You know, so we're sitting here and, you know, there's a lot of people that had never heard about this before because you don't know what's happening in a little village in the Cross Rivers.
Exactly.
And there's no one there's no, like, you know, children's rights, humans' rights, very active, you know, sort of society that is going around making sure that, you know, these things are being enforced and children are protected and children even have a place to go to. Because even if you went to that community and you thought, I'm going to rescue all the girls, it's not like we have some sort of like fantastic, you know, system that protects women, orphanages, you know, any sort of social program, social security. So, you know, it's all a bigger problem, you know, of the rights of women and children in Nigeria. In a lot of places, I feel like the government doesn't actually like to interfere with tradition, quote unquote. So you have places where, for example, I mean, by law, it's not like a woman can't inherit, but there are places in the East where traditionally a woman won't inherit her father's property.
Even
And
if she's the only child?
even if she's the only child, then it will go to his
It'll
brother.
go to his brother.
Or his sister's son or something.
Wow.
So there's a very strong hold of culture and tradition in Nigeria that supersedes legal.
Which shouldn't be.
Which it shouldn't be. So part of it is, again, it's education, it's exposure, it's people realizing that, you know, women are no longer like these things that are just playthings for families.
And it's unfortunate that this happens to the girl child. The girl child always bears the brunt of all of this. Talking about the potential of the girl child in communities like this, where, you know, her life is not going the direction which a normal child should go. Education truncated, thrown into an early marriage, has to deal with the health disadvantages of, you know, living the kind of life you shouldn't be living, even with the psychological drama. When it comes to you shedding light on situations like that, the report from the BBC, how much more attention do these problems need before they get fixed?
I mean, we need everybody talking about it. We need everybody to care. I mean, I think
the talking. I mean, most of the times when I see these advocacy things, I feel like it's just there and nothing's happening.
Well, awareness is a big part of advocacy.
Yes.
If you don't know, there's nothing you can do about it. And it starts with someone even actually knowing about it. So the thing is that we do need the government involved. We need, you know, we need National Assembly to be passing these sort of like...
The Child Rights Act has been passed and domesticated by some states, but not domesticated by all the states. So we need that to happen. How do we begin to hold the governors accountable, domesticate this law so that the child is protected? How do the vocal ones begin to shed more light on this and bring change? Because at the end of the day, what we need to see is us move from where we are now to a much better place and protect the child and secure the future of Nigeria.
I agree, and I wish I knew. This is the problem with Nigeria, right? We all know what should be done and how it should be done, but it's just things don't work the way they're supposed to, like they do in other countries.
Your book. All right. What are the points that you're highlighting in your poem?
Well, what my book really is about is that I'm really speaking a lot to sort of older women, or rather women who have the thinking of an older generation, and then, you know, women who sort of are trying to move forward. And what I'm just trying to kind of highlight is just like, you know, the way that the messages that you ingrain in young girls and the way that you raise your children, the way you speak to your daughters, the way you know, pressure women into marriage, or you pressure them into these situations that you already know are bad because you've experienced it and you've seen it. But it's sort of like, you know, no one is willing to break the mold, and no one is willing to stand up for the rights of women. And I think that's really what I'm addressing, is just kind of like, you know, to the women before me, and then to the women coming after us, and then to the women who are here now. It's like, how do we start to really change our narrative and change, you know, the future of the children that are coming after us? You know, I have a son, and I'm just thinking, like, would I end up raising another boy who is just entitled to thinking?
I doubt it.
Exactly. So then that is what I want everyone to think about, is how do we raise the next generation to think completely differently, girls and boys.
So the books is the book on the book stands right now?
No, she's still writing.
Still writing.
When is this coming out? When
Hopefully in December,
this?
Fingers crossed.
Oh, that's very close.
Yes, it is.
And do you have distribution already in place for this?
I'm self-publishing, so I will figure that all out.
Oh, well, all right. It's been such a pleasure to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me.
I wish you good luck in your book.
Thank you.
Your family, your son.
Thank you very much.
All right. We'll take a short break now. When we return, Ebi Louis Domehi found us some healthy alternatives to cookies, cakes, and bread. Don't go away.